Hi there, friends. It's Sam Collins, the coding and billing expert for acupuncture, the American Acupuncture Council, and most importantly, you as a profession and as an individual provider. As always, we want to make sure you have the most current information to make sure your practice is thriving and actually just making more money, if you will, or continuing to make more money is our hope. Well, I always want to keep you updated at first of the year on what's changing, what's new. And there's been things that are changing for this year regarding telemedicine. Now, I know you're thinking, is telemedicine something that we do a lot of? Maybe not, but I want to point out there's going to be a place for it. So I think it's important to know what these new codes are. So let's go to the slides. Let's talk about telemedicine for 2025 because there is a whole new brand new set of codes. In the old system, and when I say old system, 2024 or earlier, when we build telemedicine, it was always for E&M codes. And then we build with a modifier 25. Well, that has changed. For this year, they've updated. But let's make sure first that we define what telemedicine is. Let's make a clear definition. Telemedicine means that the provider uses interactive audio video telecommunications between you and the patient, which means literally a live visit. It's just audio video. That's all, just live. So, in other words, it is a face to face visit. It's just a face to face visit done online. I think that's very viable in this day and age. And I think, though that really started during the pandemic, I think it's really stuck because we're going to move that way anyway. I mean, think of how often with a medical provider, this is going to save a ton of time because how many of us have been to a medical provider? They don't touch you. They just sit on the other side of the room. Well, shoot, we should have done that audio video. Better for everyone. Well, that potentially could fit for us as well in certain circumstances, but do remember it's live audio video. And here's probably the bigger sticking point for many of you because you're thinking, oh, good, I'm going to do herbal consults across the nation. I'll slow down. You have to have proper licensure. And it says here, make sure you are licensed both in the state where you are located, obviously, but also where the patient is located. So by example, if you're in California and you're trying to do a telemedicine visit for someone in Texas or New York or someplace other than California, you cannot, not as a licensed acupuncturist. Now, this is irregardless of if you're billing insurance, frankly, because you cannot practice in a state you're not licensed. So if you're saying you want to do some type of herbal consult outside of your state, you're not doing it as an acupuncturist, you're doing it as an individual, which means you have no protection. You don't have malpractice. Something goes wrong, it's on you. So I'd be very careful of that. The key factor here is, I think if you're going to do this, do it for patients that are here because maybe they have difficulty coming in. Maybe your first visit is going to take an hour because there's so much information. You got to do a long consult with them. Telemedicine might bridge that. So that way, when they come in the office, you can get right to it. And or maybe they don't have that much time. What about a patient that goes, I can't get off work until this time. I can't be there. Okay, let's do some of it. Telemedicine. So here's what's changed. For 2025, we have some brand new codes. And you'll see these codes. It's 98000 through 98007. And what these are for is telemedicine, but you'll notice they are E&M codes. You'll notice it says synchronous audio video visit for the evaluation management of a new patient, which requires a medically appropriate history and examination. Straightforward in nature. That's literally the same thing as an E&M code, except it says synchronous. So in other words, think of these just like E&M codes. 98000 will be a 99202, the next one a 03, 04, 05. And so much the same way, and I think the easiest way to see these is it's going to be based on time. A 15-minute audio video visit, 98000. 30 minutes, the 01. 45 minutes, 02, 60 minutes, 03. And I do think you want to caution that it's not always going to be about medical decision making, though it could be, which exams mostly are. But if you're doing a telemedicine with a patient and it takes an hour because of all the information, is it appropriate to use 98003? Absolutely it is. So don't be afraid to use it, but document it the same way. You're going to document, I spent 1 hour over audio video. Tell me the system you use. Tell me the date and time, but you don't record it. You don't have to save it somewhere. And it's going to be all the information you take. And it's going to be the same stuff you would take down if they were sitting in front of you. Their history. And maybe some of the evaluation. Now, when I say history, realize that's going to include past history, family history, review of systems, all that stuff. But can it include some exam things? I think at least some. I mean, could you do potentially a tongue evaluation over audio video, get it close enough to the tongue? Probably. I'd be worried about color a little bit depending on the cameras, but I think we're okay. Could you certainly do a range of motion? I think so. Now, could you do tongue and pulse and body palpation? No, but I think this visit often is going to be one based on a lot of counseling, a lot of history and information. So these are new patients and these are established patients. They work the same way, just about time. I think time is the more likely use. Here's the difficulty. How much has this happened in your practice in the last year? If you're saying none, it's probably going to happen none this year, because I think we have to promulgate this. I would say, let's say you have a patient, they've had a car accident, or they're coming in from a medical referral, and you talk with them and you say, hey, we're going to have to block an hour for this. And the patient says, oh, I don't have an hour. I don't have an hour until I can come 2 weeks from now. I don't want to wait 2 weeks. Let's do it audio video. Let's start there. Now, you may wonder, what is the value of these? Well, they're much like the value of a regular E&M. They're slightly less. And by the way, next month we'll do a program. The program I do will be on RVUs. So we'll go over that. But I'm going to tell you, it's roughly 80% of what you would bill your normal E&Ms. There's no modifier necessary because there's no treatment. You know, it's just this visit. And what if a visit where the patient's calling and just goes, you know what, I need to discuss with you, I've got these issues. This visit could be counseling, these could fit. I would just be mindful, make sure it's a plan that covers exams. Here's one of the problems we're having for acupuncturists. A lot of the plans that you have joined as a provider, you wind up getting into a contract that says we don't cover exams. Now, that doesn't mean you shouldn't do them. They're just saying they bundle it and don't pay it separately. I know a lot of you know what I'm talking about. That's an upcoming show as well. Anyway, what my point is that be careful. If they're not covering an E&M code, they're not going to cover this. So it's got to be a plan that covers an E&M, but I do think this is reasonable in some instances. Realistically, though, let's talk about acupuncture. While I love the availability of this service and the potential to use it, I think there's a place for it. Is that the way we really want to treat someone? Is that how we're going to make them better? Let's face it, an acupuncturist, what you do is hands-on. You get in the room, you put in needles, because without needles, you can't talk me into feeling better. You know, I mean, certainly you can give me some advice, but the reality is it's the acupuncture. It's what you do. But this can be a bridge. So focus really on the acupuncture part, but this bridge might work for some. I can tell you major carriers, Anthem, Cigna, United Healthcare, they will cover this. Just again, go back to, well, wait a minute, what does my contract say if I'm part of ASH? Maybe not. Now, there's also new codes for 2025 for telephone calls. Now, I say telephone calls. Actually, what these are called are synchronous audio visits. Now, the reason I say telephone calls is because I'm old. Young people think, no, I don't need a phone. You can do it through lots of devices. And so realize, though, it does mean just audio only. Now, these work in the same way as the old phone call codes. And let me be clear. Remember those old codes for phone calls that you had, 99441 and so on? Those are gone. They don't exist. But let me be conscientious when it comes to a phone call. Phone calls aren't very typical because phone calls are difficult. A phone call that results in a person coming in for a visit or has been seen within the previous 7 days is one that they're not going to cover. And so make sure we understand that. But they are straightforward. 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, or an hour. Okay, that's a new patient. We have telephone audio visit here for established patient. You know where this probably works though? You have a patient you've treated, it was 2 weeks ago. They call you and go, oh my God, it's killing me. And you spend 30 minutes with them on the phone and they can't come for the next month because they're going to go out of town. That could work. Now notice the scenario I gave, because if the result of this phone call is a visit is being appointed, then it becomes part of the visit. So phone calls aren't going to be well paid because let's face it, no one's going to call you. You're going to go, oh, just do these acupressure points. I'm not saying you won't do that. Chances are you want to get them in for a visit. So I point this out because it's important to know, because you're going to hear people saying there's codes changed, and it's true, but we have to look at what's the viability of use for us as providers. Is it really viable? And I would say for most of these, in this sense, probably not. It even applies to this new one, which is called a virtual check-in. I had someone the other day as an acupuncturist, why I decided to do this. I want to use this code because the patients are sending me emails. A check-in is not an email. A check-in is when you have an electronic health record system that's protected, HIPAA compliant, where the patient logs into their account and then checks in with you with some information that maybe you're communicating back and forth. You can tell now that's probably not viable. One, I don't know of a system that's out there for us that does that. Some medical ones do, but the ones for Accus, I don't see that too often. I'm not saying if you have one that does, great. The problem is going to be, notice it says, provided within the previous 7 days or a procedure within the next 24 hours. So in other words, if the result of this is, again, treatment or, was within 7 days of a prior visit, does not count. So being mindful here, when it comes to use of these, do they really match? Because chances are when someone does a check-in or a phone call, what is it going to result in? The person coming in for a visit. So let's be careful of being overzealous, but focusing on what we do well. What is the reason that people come to you? To receive acupuncture. If you could talk them into feeling good, you would have done that already, or they wouldn't need to see you. It's the acupuncture. Where I think this is helpful is to understand that there can be a bridge, particularly the audio video one, that helps. The phone call thing, or the audio only, is when I think it helps to get them in the office. And that few minutes of counseling, though you're not billing for it directly, indirectly, it's creating that good patient-doctor relationship. They trust you and you're giving them solid information. The good news is your practice continues to thrive. Next month, when we go over RVUs, I'm not sure you're aware. Do you know your fees for the first set raised 20%? And that's where I want to make a focus. So as always, we want to be the place where you get the right information. The American Acupuncture Council has a very vested interest in all of you. Please make sure you continue to practice well, but I also want to make sure you're profitable. If you're not already, go to our website for the network. Take a look there. We've got a lot of information to always keep you updated because as always, your success is ours. Until I see you next time, be well, my friends.